Have you ever had that unsettling feeling that something or someone is watching you, even when there's nobody there? Let me start with a simple truth. Some roads are not meant to be crossed at night. Not by chance, anyway. Snake Pass is one of them. My name is Daniel Fletcher, and I always thought I knew the UK's roads well. As a landscape photographer, my whole life revolves around exploring the most remote places. Those forgotten corners where the world seems to stop. But that night, I learned that some parts of the world never stop. They just wait. Before you jump to another video, listen to me all the way through. This story is real. It happened to me. And if it gives you goosebumps, give it a like and subscribe for more stories like this. The truth is that Snake Pass isn't just a road. It's a winding track cut deep into the mountains of the Peak District, surrounded by dense forests and steep cliffs. During the day, it's stunning, a natural maze of curves and breathtaking views. But at night, it transforms. The mist swallows everything, and the shadows seem to take on a life of their own. That night started like any other. I was returning from a photo shoot at the top of the mountain. The sky was clear when I started the descent, but soon the mist began to form, thick and suffocating, as if the mountain itself was trying to hide me from the rest of the world. And then it happened. It wasn't a loud sound or a sudden flash. It was something more subtle, more disturbing. A feeling that I wasn't alone, as if something was watching me from the shadows. Have you ever felt that? Have you ever driven down a dark road and had that creepy feeling that something is following you? Share in the comments. I need to know if I'm alone in this. What came next changed everything. At first, I tried to ignore that feeling. After all, Snake Pass has always had a sinister reputation. People in the area tell stories about unexplained accidents, drivers who have disappeared without a trace, and strange figures seen walking along the road at night. But I never took these stories seriously. To me, they were nothing more than legends created by people who are afraid of the dark. Until that night. I was driving slowly, trying to see through the dense fog that seemed to swallow up the car's headlights. Every bend in the road was like a portal to something unknown, and the silence was so oppressive that I could hear my own breathing echoing inside the vehicle. It was then that I realized something strange. Headlights behind me. At first, I thought it was just another driver. There was nothing unusual about that. After all, Snake Pass is one of the few routes that connect Manchester to the Peak District. But something bothered me. The headlights were constantly close together, as if they were following me. Thorn didn't overtake. They didn't shorten the distance. They just stayed there. I tried to speed up, thinking that maybe I was just a cautious driver in the fog. But no matter how fast I went, the headlights were still there, relentless, like glowing eyes watching me from behind. This isn't right, I muttered to myself, gripping the steering wheel tightly. I decided to stop at one of the viewpoints, on the side of the road. If it had been another driver, he would probably have passed me or stopped too. But something inside me already knew that this was no ordinary driver. When I pulled the car over, the headlights behind me also stopped. My heart started beating harder. I got out of the car slowly, trying to see something through the mist. "Hello?" I called out, my voice shaking slightly. "Is anyone there?" No answer. The silence was deafening. Not even the sound of the wind cut through the stillness. I looked around, but there was no one. Just the empty road and the dark trees in the background, their twisted shapes like arms outstretched towards me. I ran back to the car, locking the doors as soon as I got in. When I looked in the rearview mirror, the headlights had disappeared. "It's probably just tiredness," I mumbled, trying to convince myself. "You're exhausted, Daniel." But then, when I started driving again, something even stranger happened. The headlights reappeared. This time, they were closer. Much closer. And they weren't coming from behind. They were next to me, through the wing mirror. I saw a figure sitting in the passenger seat of an invisible car, her face pale and her eyes fixed on me. She wore an old-fashioned white dress and held something in her hands, something I couldn't clearly identify. My whole body froze. I blinked several times, trying to push the image away, but it was still there, as if caught in the reflection of the glass. Would you have stopped to investigate? I couldn't take my eyes off the side mirror. The figure was still there, motionless, as if it were sitting on an invisible bench next to my car. Her empty eyes stared at me, fixed, unblinking. It was as if she could see right through me. Not just watching me, but understanding me. My mind was screaming at me to speed up, but my hands were shaking so badly that I could barely hold the steering wheel. I blinked again, trying to push the image away, but it remained there, relentless. Then something even more disturbing happened. She smiled. It wasn't a human smile. It was a slow, almost imperceptible movement that transformed her pale face into something even more sinister. And at that moment, I realized that she was holding something in her hands, something that looked like a doll, an old doll with broken glass eyes and a muddy dress. "What do you want?" I shouted, my voice breaking, but she didn't answer. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, as if she were curious or amused. I pressed down on the accelerator, trying to get away as quickly as possible. The engine roared, but the road in front of me seemed endless. The same winding bends, the same dark trees in the distance. No matter how hard I drove, nothing changed. It was as if I was trapped in an endless nightmare. The headlights behind me reappeared, this time much closer. I could feel their presence, like a shadow hanging over the car. I looked through the center rearview mirror and saw the same figure sitting in the back seat. She was inside the car. My heart raced and a choked cry escaped my lips. She didn't move, but her presence was suffocating, as if she was sucking all the air out of the cabin. Her lips began to move slowly, forming silent words that I couldn't hear, but felt deep inside me. "You shouldn't be here." Those words echoed in my mind, as if they had been etched directly into my brain. I closed my eyes tightly, trying to block it out, but the feeling of absolute fear had already taken hold of me. Then I remembered something I'd heard about Snake Pass. They say that this road was built on ancient trails used by smugglers and thieves, many of whom died in ambushes in the region. They say their spirits still roam the area, trapped between this world and the next. Others swear they have seen the Lady of the Pass, a supernatural figure who haunts lonely travelers. Had never believed these stories before, but that night, every detail of them seemed to come alive around me. The figure in the back seat began to move slowly, as if it was getting closer. Its hands were outstretched, holding the broken doll. Its mouth opened, revealing a wide, distorted smile, as if it was about to tell me a terrible secret. Desperate, I started banging on the car doors, trying to open them, but they wouldn't budge. It was as if something invisible had sealed them. I looked through the rearview mirror again, and this time she tilted her head slightly, as if she were curious. Her lips moved, forming words that I couldn't hear but felt deep inside me. "You shouldn't be here." Those words echoed in my mind, as if they had been etched directly into my brain. I closed my eyes tightly, trying to block it out, but the feeling of absolute fear had already taken hold of me. Then I remembered something I'd heard about Snake Pass. They say that this road was built on ancient trails used by smugglers and thieves, many of whom died in ambushes in the region. They say their spirits still roam the area, trapped between this world and the next. Others swear they have seen the Lady of the Pass, a supernatural figure who haunts lonely travelers. I had never believed these stories before. But that night, every detail of them seemed to come alive around me. The figure in the back seat began to move slowly, as if it was getting closer. Its hands were outstretched, holding the broken doll. Its mouth opened, revealing a wide, distorted smile, as if it was about to tell me a terrible secret. Desperate, I started banging on the car doors, trying to open them, but they wouldn't budge. It was as if something invisible had sealed them. I looked through the rearview mirror again, and this time she tilted her head slightly, as if she were curious. Her lips moved, forming words that I couldn't hear, but felt deep inside me. "You shouldn't be here." Finally, after what seemed like hours, the mist began to dissipate. The road in front of me cleared up, and the whispers diminished until they disappeared completely. When I looked in the rearview mirror again, the figure was gone. I parked the car at the first petrol station I could find and ran out, as if the devil himself was after me. I've never been through Snake Pass since. Do you believe that places can hold memories of past tragedies? That night wasn't just a frightening encounter, it was a warning. Since then, my life has changed in ways I could never have predicted. I can no longer drive without looking in the rearview mirror every few minutes, as if I expect to see something or someone watching me. Even the sound of the engine seems different now, as if it carries a distant echo of that voice that whispered in my mind. But that's not the worst thing. The worst thing is that I started dreaming about that road. Always the same scene. The thick fog, the dark trees in the background, and that figure standing next to the car, holding the broken doll. And in the dreams, I always get out of the car. I always follow her